Welcome, seekers of the truth, to the Magical Services channel. So, this is going to be a most supreme mood reading for the general collective for the time when the moon is in Pisces, and that'll be from August 27th around 6:30 p.m. Universal Time to August 30th around 2 a.m. Universal Time of this year of 2026. With that said, let's get into your horoscope. So the partial lunar eclipse on August 28th, with the full moon in Pisces directly opposing the Virgo sun, functions less as an external event and more as a psychological detonation within the collective unconscious. Eclipses operate on the psyche like a sudden pressure change in the inner ear. The worlds look the same, the world looks the same, but something fundamental in the way one hears, processes, and orients oneself has shifted. Pisces, the sign most porous to the unseen, most entangled with the subconscious and the archetypal, receives this illumination at full strength. What rises in the days surrounding this eclipse is not new information, but old material, feelings that were buried beneath functionality, grief that was managed rather than mourned, anxieties that were outrun rather than faced. The collective mood tilts toward a strange, heavy tenderness, as though the psychic skin of the world has been thinned and every stimulus lands a little deeper than expected. The Virgo sun, conjunct Mercury in the same sign, represents the mind's attempt to impose order on this emotional flooding. Virgo is the part of the psyche that categorizes, diagnoses, and seeks to repair. With Mercury fused to the sun, the inner narrator is extraordinarily active, running commentaries, sorting feelings into manageable taxonomies, trying to make the chaos of the Pisces moon legible. For a few days, the collective mental state oscillates between a fierce, almost compulsive need to understand and name what is happening emotionally and a growing recognition that not everything can be named. The mind reaches for its familiar tools, analysis, critique, lists, and finds them insufficient for the depth of what the eclipse has unearthed. This produces a particular species of psychological restlessness, a feeling of thinking very hard without arriving anywhere, of the intellect spinning its wheels in emotional mud. This restlessness is sharply compounded by Uranus in Gemini squaring the Sun-Mercury conjunction with an orb of less than 1 degree, the tightest and most electrically charged aspect in the data set. Is the principle of sudden disruption, the lightning bolt that shatters established thought patterns, whether one consents or not. Squaring the Virgo Sun and Mercury, Uranus introduces involuntary cognitive jolts, intrusive thoughts, sudden realizations that reframe an entire narrative, flashes of insight that arrive with the force of anxiety. The collective mental atmosphere is charged with a low-grade static, a sense that any given thought could suddenly veer in an unexpected direction. For some, this manifests as breakthroughs, the abrupt dissolution of a mental pattern that has been calcified for years. For others, it manifests as a spike in nervous energy, an inability to settle into a single train of thought, a feeling of being psychologically ambushed by one's own mind. Sleep may become fitful. Conversations may take sharp, disorienting turns. The psyche is being asked to tolerate discontinuity, to accept that the story it has been telling itself is not the only story available. Beneath this mental electricity lies a deeper, slower current of emotional weight carried by Venus in Libra opposite retrograde Saturn in Aries. Psychologically, this aspect activates the inner critic in its most relational form. The voice that whispers one is not enough, not lovable enough, not worthy of the ease and beauty one desires. Saturn retrograde turns this critique inward, making it feel ancient, inherited, structural rather than situational, almost karmic. The collective mood carries an undercurrent of quiet self-doubt, a hesitation before joy, a tendency to brace for disappointment even in moments of genuine warmth. Venus in Libra wants harmony, connection, aesthetic pleasure, but Saturn's opposition introduces a psychological tax on those desires, a feeling that peace must be earned through endurance, or that softness is a vulnerability that will be exploited. The mood is not despairing, but it is guarded. There is a collective holding of breath, a waiting to see whether the other shoe will drop before allowing oneself to truly feel. Mars in Cancer square Saturn in Aries deepens this guardedness by introducing a layer of frustrated drive and suppressed anger. Mars in Cancer does not express rage cleanly. It internalizes, withdraws, and seethes in the domestic and emotional interior. Squared by Saturn, the impulse to assert, to fight, to move forward is met with an internal wall of obligation, fear, or exhaustion. The psychological result is a kind of low-grade irritability that has no clear object, a sense of being blocked without knowing by whom or what. Passive aggression becomes a collective shadow language. People snap at small things because the large things feel too dangerous to address. The body holds tension in the jaw, the chest, the stomach. There's a collective desire to crawl into a private emotional space and not be required to perform competence or courage for a few days. Yet Saturn is not operating alone in Aries. Neptune, also retrograde, shares the sign, and their wide conjunction introduces a slow dissolution of the very psychological structures Saturn is trying to maintain. When Saturn builds walls, Neptune seeps through them. The collective psyche experiences a strange softening of boundaries, a difficulty knowing where one's own emotions end and another's begin, a porousness to the moods of crowds, media, and intimate others. Identity feels slightly less fixed than usual. The stories people tell themselves about who they are and what they can handle become a little more permeable. This can be spiritually beautiful, a genuine opening of the heart beyond ego's jurisdiction, but it can also be psychological disorienting, producing a vague anxiety that one is losing one's shape, dissolving into something unnamed. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius operates at the deepest stratum of the collective unconscious, quietly restructuring the psychological architecture of groups, ideologies, and social belonging. Pluto's retrograde motion turns the transformative pressure inward, asking the collective to examine where power, control, and fear have been embedded in its social and intellectual frameworks. The mood is not explosive but tectonic. Something is shifting beneath the surface of collective belief, something that will not be fully visible until Pluto stations direct, but whose gravitational pull is already altering the emotional landscape. Jupiter in Leo provides a necessary counterweight to these denser currents. Jupiter's presence in Leo injects a thread of psychological warmth, a reminder that the self is also capable of generosity, play, and radiant self-expression. In the midst of eclipse-driven introspection and Saturnine self-critique, Jupiter offers the simple, sustaining permission to feel proud, to laugh, to occupy space without apology. It is not a cure for the period's heaviness, but it is a window through which light enters. As the moon wanes through the final degrees of Pisces in the days following the eclipse, the acute psychological intensity gradually metabolizes. The waning light is a natural invitation to release rather than grasp, to let the insights of the eclipse settle into the body without forcing them into immediate action or narrative. The collective psyche begins the slow work of integrating what surfaced: the grief, the anger, the sudden clarity, the dissolved boundaries. Not all of it will be understood immediately. Some of it will only make sense in retrospect, weeks or months later, when the feelings have fully ripened into knowledge. The period asks, above all, for psychological patience, for the willingness to sit in the not yet knowing, to let the inner landscape rearrange itself without rushing to call the new configuration by a name. The mind will want answers. The eclipse offers only presence. And in that presence, if one can bear it, something quietly and irreversibly heals. So that is what I had for you today, collective. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please feel free to like this video or comment this video or share this video or hype this video, or subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, or hype our channel by letting your friends and acquaintances who might benefit from it know about it. All those acts would be greatly appreciated and for sure would make my day. Now, there's a magical service being offered in the description box. Feel free to check it out. It could be very useful. And beyond that, I do encourage you to stay in tune to future uploads of the channel, as I always try to keep fresh stuff on here for you all. All sign readings, sign-specific readings, longs and shorts, divinations, and astrology readings, and wherever else you would like to see feasible. So let me know about it, and we'll see. And beyond that, I thank you all so much for being here and being part of our channel, being part of our tribe, and supporting our channel. Until the next time, blessings.